Hi, this is Sean, and thank you for taking the time to download the Competition Killer. So far, we've had quite a number of downloads of the Competition Killer, and it's creating quite the buzz. We've also gotten quite a few really good questions asked as a result through the website. First, we have Deborah Puyallup. She says, Sean, what can I say to a loss mitigator to get them to accept my offer? Well, Deborah, that's an excellent question, but let me prepare you with something. 90% of the short sale business is proper preparation. The problem I see with most investors is they don't know the rules of the game. So they try to submit an offer and they throw a number out there that just does not make sense to the bank, and they think the bank is just going to accept it when that is not the case. If you prepare your offer correctly, you don't have to say a whole lot. And I'll give you an example of this. Did you know that on an FHA loan, FHA will accept 82% as an offer. They'll accept 82% of whatever their appraised value comes in at. I don't care if the homeowner owes $100,000. Let's say that their appraised value comes in at $80,000. The lender will accept 82% of that. I hope I didn't lose you with the numbers here, but just to use round numbers here, $80,000 times 82% is $65,600. So when you know the rules, then you can submit your offers to where they'll get accepted right off the bat rather than getting denied or counteroffered and everything else. Does that make sense? All right, the next question is from Trevor in Milwaukee. Trevor says, Sean, one of my biggest challenges in this economy is finding buyers. I've had an ad in the paper for 2 weeks and have not had a single response to it yet for either rent to own or for purchase. What can I do to increase awareness of my properties for sale? This is a great question because a lot of people are seeing this right now. Like I mentioned earlier, there are less buyers right now than there used to be. So whereas just a couple of years ago you could literally put a sign in a yard and sell a property, it's not like that now. Selling is a little bit more of a challenge only because there's less buyers and it's more of a buyer's market, right? So we need to be able to adapt to that and be prepared for that because it's our job to still sell our properties. And I'll tell you this right now, we are not having problems selling properties. Why? Well, first of all, you need to have a unique selling proposition, and you use this doing a method I call HITS, H-I-T-S, and that stands for headline, interest, tell a story, and solicit. And you need to do that in every one of your ads. So Trevor, I would challenge you to take a look at your ad in the paper and tell me, does it follow a hit system? In other words, does it have a really good headline? I'll give you an example of a really good headline. A good headline is not house for sale. All right? A good headline is not rent to own. That's not a good headline. A good headline is $36,320 in instant equity. That's a great headline. Or move in today with as little as $563 down. That's a headline. Okay? Interest is you have to create the interest. So that sometimes the headline creates enough interest all by itself, but some other pieces of interest need to be included in the ad as well. That's where you start to talk about the property or about what the unique selling proposition is of that property. And then T is to tell a story. What's the story behind it? So sometimes even in my ads I'll say, stop this house from going into foreclosure. That's my story, right? Isn't it true that a lot of people want a really good deal and they love it when they hear the word foreclosure? Absolutely. So I'm going to use that in my advertisements. And then the final thing is solicit. And that means get them to take action now. And not just by putting in your phone number. What can you offer them to get them to call right this second? Think of this and get a little bit creative with it, but use a hit system. Also, Trevor, one of the other things that we're doing right now that's really helping us sell houses is we're using a ton of bandit signs. And on our bandit signs, we're using the hit system to sell properties. So whereas before we used to use the newspaper a lot to sell properties, we don't use that quite as much as we used to because we've found that lately bandit signs around a neighborhood is selling properties. Now, there's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do this depending on where you live, because there are some areas that have laws against just throwing bandit signs out all over the place. So you do need to be careful with this. But bandit signs right now are selling properties. We usually put out 20 signs per week per property within a quarter-mile radius of that house. And by using a unique selling proposition and the hit system, that helps sell houses. So there's a little tidbit for you. By the way, anything will sell. I don't care what market you're in. If you're in an up market or a down market or a buyer's market or a seller's market, it does not matter. What matters is what your unique selling proposition is. And sometimes that can be as simple as price. So since it's a buyer's market right now, when we're negotiating our short sale deals, we're actually being much more aggressive in our offers, and we're only taking those deals that have the biggest profit potential in them so that we can sell these cheaper than anybody else can sell them for, and we still make 21.5 on average for every deal. Does that make sense to you? All right, our final question is from Curtis in Tampa, Florida. Curtis says, Sean, when doing a short sale, will the lender require proof of funds? If so, how do I get around this challenge if my exit strategy is to wholesale? Curtis, this is an awesome question because this is real life stuff that comes up. All right, first of all, lenders are only going to absolutely require this about 10% of the time. And for some of you who are already doing short sales, you're thinking, that's not true, Sean. They ask for it almost 100% of the time. That is true. They ask for it almost 100% of the time, but they don't require it 100% of the time. They'll usually only require it 10% of the time. So even though most lenders have a policy that says that if you're going to submit an offer, they want to see either proof of funds or an approval letter from a bank or something like that, if you submit your offer and just conveniently forget to put that in there, only 10% of the time will they come back and then require it from you. But it's still a valid question, Curtis, because 10% of the time you are going to need that information, right? So what do you do then? Well, you can do a couple things. I'll give you 2 quick tips right now. Number 1, getting an approval letter is actually very, very simple. You can get one from a hard money lender. And here's why I say you can get one from a hard money lender. There are plenty of hard money lenders out there that will pre-approve you based on the deal. It doesn't matter what your credit looks like. It doesn't matter how much money you have to put down. There are hard money lenders out there that will give you an approval based on how good of a deal you have. So let me give you an example. You go to a hard money lender and you say, hey, I've got a potential of buying a property for $100,000 and it's worth $300,000 as is. Would you give me a loan? Of course they would. What you do is you tell your hard money lender, listen, I want to work with you, and there's a potential we can do business in the future. I need a pre-approval letter from you saying that I'm pre-qualified up to X amount of dollars. It's a very simple thing to get. You can get this from your hard money lender within a day, okay? Or number 2, if you've got any type of private money lenders, you can get an approval letter from them as well. You don't necessarily need proof of funds. By the way, can you get an approval letter if you don't have a private money lender? Yes. Here's how you do it. Just about every place across the country has local real estate investor groups. Here's what you do. You go to your local RIA club, as they call them, and you find the biggest and baddest investor there. You know how you find out who that is? He's the guy or girl with all the people flocking around him at the end of every meeting. And you tell him that you want to be able to find wholesale deals for him to purchase. And if so, if you're able to find a great deal for this person, you are willing to give it to them and let them make the majority of the profit. In return, you're going to need a letter from them saying that they are qualified to purchase on your behalf. If you get a letter like this from another investor, usually this is all it takes. People think this is such a bigger deal than it is, but it's not. All right, so there's a couple of tips and tricks for you. All right, that pretty much wraps it up for today. I tried to get to as many questions as I possibly could. If I did not get to your question, I apologize. Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent. I hope you enjoyed the competition killer, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Happy investing.